David Spahn. David, thank you. Let's bring in Alina Habba, attorney for former President Trump. Alina, thank you for the time. Let me start with this. Can we definitively say that you've been informed officially of this indictment, and do you have the scope of the indictment from the prosecutors?
No, I do not have the scope from the prosecutors. I'm his civil attorney, obviously. I found out, frankly, minutes before it broke, that's of the indictment, but I'm equally as shocked, I would say, as the rest of the world right now.
We saw, and I read, the former president's statement, a lengthy statement here. What is, and you talked to him quite a bit, what is his state of mind about this?
Well, Brett, I think we all are aware that this is probably the most legally pathetic case that we've seen. And just knowing the facts as I know them, based on comments to the press by people like Michael Cohen, who they're resting their case on, I think his sentiments are that this is a result of him leading in the polls, doing incredibly well. He is the leading candidate, as we know. And when people are afraid of someone being successful and fixing the mess that our country is, they come after you. So this is the same thing that President Trump has been dealing with for years. And I can't say that he's surprised. I don't think that would be how I would describe his state of mind. I think that he's disappointed in what has become a sad day for our country.
There was some thought when it was announced that the grand jury was going to pause for a month that perhaps they were going to punt and take some time. And there was reporting that there was some back and forth about whether to move forward with this indictment. Obviously, we are where we are today. Can I ask you about process and how that goes forward? Will there be a negotiation with the Alvin Bragg's office for the former president's surrender, for his transport to New York to get fingerprinted and a photo? How will that work?
My understanding is that because he is a former president and a current candidate, that the Secret Service would be involved in that, obviously. This is not a normal individual. This is the first time in history that anybody has done this to a former president and candidate. So there will be a lot of coordination with the DA and the security team for the president, as well as his attorneys handling this case. And of course, yes, there would be, I wouldn't call it a surrender, but there's a process and an arraignment, just like anyone else would do. And then you go from there and you have motions to dismiss, to basically go through a normal trial process, in which case he will be vindicated and this will get dismissed. And Alvin Bragg will have to sit here with this, the repercussions of his decision today.
But I mean, there will be an appearance in some way, shape, or form in the New York City courthouse to do those process things, the fingerprinting and the photograph. That
is my understanding. Yeah.
Last thing, you're also facing, obviously, and you rightly point out, you're a civil attorney, but the possibility of other investigations bubbling up. The federal investigation in Georgia about alleging election interference, and that is in a grand jury. And also the special counsel's investigation into January 6th, and also the handling of classified documents. Are there different attorneys dealing with all of those? Is it one team? How are you breaking that down, and do you expect those to come forward in coming weeks?
There are different teams. Obviously, we have an incredible legal team, and I'm fortunate to work with them. There are different teams based on the states or whatever the issues are in investigations that are specialized in those kinds of issues. But you highlighting right now, Brett, exactly how many of these grand juries are taking place against President Trump is the exact major problem of politicizing the Justice Departments throughout the country. And hopefully the rest of the country will realize just how corrupt these agencies have become and will become, aware and vote and see that our country is in dire need for reform and, frankly, fair trials and and AGs and DAs, and we're lacking that at this moment.
Last thing, I mean, you do see each of these cases differently, though, do you not?
I do. I think that in some ways they're different in terms of what the context is. But quite honestly, Brett, I think they're all based in the same thing, which is selective prosecution by these Soros-backed, in many cases, DAs who are trying to prove in their last effort to prove that they are a far left progressive before they're voted out of their offices. And I think that is really the theme here. We've got Jack Smith, as you mentioned, DA Alvin Bragg. We've got Letitia James, which I handle in New York. These are political figures fighting the leading political candidate. So in many regards, no, they're pretty much the same, and they're all based in nothing, and they're all people trying to find a reason to try and remove Donald Trump as the future president of this country again.
Alina Habba, Donald Trump attorney, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Brett.